A warm welcome to episode 15 of Lost for Words, a podcast exploring the opinions, glories and the most interesting stories of guests. I am your host Jason, and for this week we enter the world of boxing. This week's guest is Dev Sahni, who is the head of media at Hall of Fame boxing promoter Frank Warren's Queensberry Promotions. Queensberry is one of the two main boxing promotional companies in the UK, alongside Matchroom, and Queensberry's stable of fighters include Tyson Fury, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yard and many more. Dev speaks on this week's episode about his route into boxing, his work interviewing and making content with some of boxing's biggest names, working under a legend like Frank Warren, as well as recently being roped into MC duties at a fight night. We speak about some of the upcoming fights, particularly the heavyweights, and we discuss the recent rise in celebrity boxing events. This is a good one, and I will speak to you on the other side. A quick housekeeping note before we get started. Please leave a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, or any other platform. It's the best way the podcast can grow and better content can be produced for you, the listener. It's your listening experience that matters the most. But enough from me, now on to today's episode of Lost for Words. Hi Dev, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm okay. So we're not. It's not video, is it? Because I haven't done my hair.
No, just audio's fine. What have you been doing today?
Cool. Just working, mate. I'm working. I've kind of slipped away a little bit, but yeah, we're just got this show coming up, haven't we? July the 10th, Royal Albert Hall. So we're just getting together on that and sorting a few things out.
Good. Right, we'll just fire ahead then. Just get straight into it.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Go for it.
Welcome aboard then. Firstly, obviously you're in the boxing game, so to speak. But did you like boxing from an early age?
I mean, it kind of depends how early. My first boxing memory was staying up to watch Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis. I didn't really understand what I was watching. I remember really wanting Mike Tyson to win at the time because Mike Tyson was that crazy guy who bit off people's ears and stuff like that. And my dad was a fan, and I thought, oh, okay, well let's see how he gets on. And then he just got knocked out by Lennox Lewis, and I was very confused at the time as to how that could happen. This fearsome Mike Tyson, getting knocked out like that. That was my first proper boxing memory, but I was too young to understand it. Really, it was Ricky Hatton around his fight against Floyd Mayweather, which really drew me in and made me a proper fan, really researching it and understanding it.
How old would you have been at that time? Were you a teenager yet, or were you a bit younger?
So for Hatton Mayweather, where I'd say I converted into a real boxing fan, that was 2007, so I'd have been 19 years old.
Did you box at any sort of level yourself?
No, if anything, I try to avoid fights, to be honest, mate. If anyone tries it, I just try and tell them a joke, make them laugh, run away. So yeah, I mean, boxing's not really for me. I'm happy to watch and be entertained by other people fighting, and I'd like to keep it that way if that was you offering me out.
What was the first fight you went to see live?
I remember getting tickets for James DeGale against George Groves. So that was 2011, I believe it was.
Yeah, just before the Olympic Games, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was at the O2, and I just remember I was working, and I remember asking my manager, this boxing is going to go on sale. I need to buy tickets. Can I just sort of spend 10 minutes trying to get tickets? She said yes, and it was great. I went there, and who would think all these years later I now work for Frank Warren. It was the first boxing show I went to was a Frank Warren show. I remember being a big James DeGale fan. I really really wanted to win. I'm not really sure why, what drew me to him more, but yeah, that was my experience.
Then we'll move on to your route into the boxing business as such. Did you study something at uni or whatever that would have helped you get into the media?
Kind of. I did media and cultural studies with psychology. Um, but honestly, I'm not sure how many of those skills, those lessons, and dissertations were really sort of transferable to anything we're doing today. I think a lot of the time it's just about doing a degree and going through that and going 3 years and having your your dissertations and exams and stuff like that. That gives you a sort of good academic standing to go on and do something else. Um, so yeah, even though it was media and cultural studies, and now I now work in media, I don't know. I think I could have done something else and really changed where I got to.
What was your first job position in the boxing world?
In the boxing world, it was at Boxnation. So to give you background on that, I'd always worked in online marketing, so just like digital marketing, generally quite boring stuff for like travel um, trying to sell European rail travel to Brits. It's there's not a lot in it. It's not particularly exciting, but at the time, if you're in it and you're passionate about it, you try and sort of climb the ladder. But I I was made redundant at the place that I was at, and I was at a bit of a loose end. I was firing around CVs. I got a job somewhere else, again within travel, doing online marketing. But in the time in between, at the time when I was firing out loads of CVs, I sent my CV to Boxnation, and my CV was quite like it stands out. I'd sort of done like a YouTube cover page, put myself in the picture, and for all the different suggested videos, it was like things I'm good at. I mean, if I
Yeah.
look back now, it's quite sort of cheesy, but it will. If it lands on your desk, it's not something I would hope, and clearly it wasn't. It's not something you just put something over. You have a little scan of it, and yeah. So what happened was I started my job somewhere else, and the head of marketing at Boxnation gave me a call and said, "I've got your CV here. We've got a role if you're interested in applying." And the role was of a digital manager at Boxnation, and yeah, I got it. They made me jump through a few hoops, coming up with ideas for their website, things like that, stuff that I was kind of into really at the time, and yeah, all kind of worked out from there really.
So, apart from the website and the podcast, did your role involve anything else at Boxnation?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy really. I mean, because these are small companies, right? In terms of the number of that actually work there and on the ground. So you get the opportunity to wear many hats. You get the opportunity to just do more and more. And if there's stuff that you enjoy, you can kind of push yourself towards it, as long as other stuff is still getting done. So in terms of my box nation, what I was doing there, I was tasked was improve the website, uh, improve the online marketing, uh, handle like the app, the online stream, and a bit of social media as well, and kind of a bit of everything there. But then I found myself doing the podcast. There was Charlie's Web as well. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was just like a little social media show with Charlie Webster and Anthony Agogo. A little bit on there as well. Yeah, I just kind of did everything really. Anything that they asked me, I'd say yes, and that's kind of what I've done in my career.
See, for people who maybe aren't familiar with the marketing side of a business, how does one improve marketing, certainly of a boxing company?
How does one improve the marketing of a boxing company? I think generally it's event by event. So for Box Nation, for example, there wouldn't be a big kind of ongoing brand campaign to get Box Nation out there, get Box Nation out there. What you would rely on is marquee events. So and then attach your brand to that. So, say for example, early days of Boxnation, and this was predates me, but this was probably Boxnation's biggest fight was David Haye against Derek Chisora at Upton Park.
Yeah.
And Boxnation, gained tremendous brand value from being attached to that. That fight was because of the whole brawl, that a front page and back thing. So it was about acquisition of marquee events, attaching your brand to that, and getting the message out there. It can be social media, it can be outdoor marketing, it can be radio, bit of everything really. It depends on the budgets you're given.
Out of all the events you worked at Boxnation, what would you say your highlight was?
Probably, I mean, anything Mayweather related is always good, but yeah, I mean, they're always good fights to work on. But for me, towards the end of my time really at Boxnation, that first Canelo versus Golovkin fight was just great fun to. That was a big acquisition for Boxnation at the time as well. It was the biggest fight in boxing. It's one of the biggest fights in recent years, and Boxnation were all over it. So we were pumping stuff all the time and doing partnerships with like Sport Bible, guys like that, and it was just a great thing to be a part of. And the fight itself, lived up to expectations. That's probably the biggest and best Boxnation fight that I was involved in.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You're saying about the fight living up to its expectations. I think that's probably one of the highest quality fights I've ever watched live. And I think that always, I'd imagine if you worked on it, then that would always give it a fonder touch on your mind, because it adds to the full, I was a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of stands out in your memory, doesn't it? And I more so than the fight itself, and of course it was high level. I just remember the weigh-in, and the first time the press conference for the weigh-in was so close to the fight. These guys just faced off, and it was just ice cold, ice cold from Canelo as well, and that rush. Just like, oh wow, these guys are actually going to fight tomorrow. These are the best in the world. Is Canelo going to take Golovkin's power? Can Golovkin actually knock out Canelo? All these questions, and it was just like, yes, we're so close to that being answered. So it really stands out.
When did you leave Boxnation?
And then Frank did a deal with BT Sport where they were no longer simulcast on Boxnation. So and that happened around time when like Tyson Fury signed with Frank as well. I don't think Boxnation got a Tyson Fury fight, not in the second version of Tyson Fury, the comeback. So it happened around that time, and the reason was just because I wanted to be involved in the big UK domestic stuff. Frank was signing up all these fighters, Warrington and all these guys were coming over, and they weren't going to be Boxnation. So yeah,
Did you, were you invited straight over, or would that have been a process of reapplying?
Well, it's again, because it's quite a small company. It's quite, at that time, certainly Boxnation and Frank, it was kind of blurred into one. And towards the end of my Boxnation time, I'd be doing more and more on the Frank Warren side anyway. For example, I'd be going there to the office a couple of times a week to help on the Frank Warren side, then going back to do stuff on the Boxnation side. So it all kind of blurred. And yeah, I mean, when I made it clear that I did want to work across the, like the Tyson Fury events, for example, I wouldn't be there covering that in a Boxnation capacity because it's no relevance to Boxnation. So yeah, they just offered me a role.
What is your role at Queensberry?
A bit of everything, really. But I mean, the official role is head of media. But I would imagine that role, if the same role at Matchroom, probably does something completely different. I think, really, we've also got a head of communication, probably more like a head of media in terms of dealing with press and setting up events and stuff like that every day. Really, I'm more working across content, digital content, promos, anything I'm asked. As you've seen recently, doing press conferences, randomly MCing and stuff.
I'm going to come on to that. I'm looking forward to speaking about that.
Yeah. I'm just I have to change my cap every day, really, but it's good.
What is it like working for a Hall of Fame promoter like Frank Warren?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. He's yeah. I mean, I just haven't got a bad word to say about him. He's always been really, really top with me. Um, Always made me feel loved and appreciated. Again, as recently as this weekend just gone with the MCing, he was there and telling me how proud of me he was, and all of this stuff. It's good. He's very, very nice to work for. And you would think from afar, oh God, I bet he flies off the handle and goes mad. Like, he doesn't. He's just chilled. He's just an OG. That's so he's good to work.
So when I think back to recently watching I think it was the Lyndon Arthur when he beat Anthony Yard, and I thought Frank Warren, because that was just off the back of Dubois losing to Joyce as well. I thought he dealt with himself really well, because you would understand if he'd gone crazy thinking of two of his big prospects, but two of his sort of main fighters having lost in a fight they maybe would have expected him to be competitive but won. But I thought he kept his cool really well, because you'd understand if he was sort of flustered. And when I think of comparing it to when Dillian White got knocked out by Povetkin, and you could see Eddie Hearn, he was like dying on his feet at the interview.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference there in that. So Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, both Queensberry fighters.
Yeah, true.
Both would be heavyweights that would be pushed on regardless of who won that. And you see Joyce is, well placed to fight. Say, for example, if Joshua versus Usyk fell apart, it would be Joyce versus Usyk, and Joyce has got a great position. With the Yard Arthur thing, again, both fighters are Queensberry fighters. Both fighters were Queensberry fighters, and you got to hand it to Frank in terms of he makes these fights.
Yeah, he does matches them. He matches them together.
He does it, and that's the thing. So there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser every time. You're talking about White against Povetkin. I'm not sure if Povetkin was a Matchroom fighter, and certainly he wasn't there to. They didn't bring him in to win. Obviously, it would just be a great name for Dillian White's resume. So you can see why Eddie would be upset with that. It's gone against the script, hasn't it? And he hasn't necessarily got Povetkin as a. I mean, you can't run with Povetkin for the next sort of 5 years, kind of thing.
That's very true. So talk to me as well a bit about the Fury Wilder. We're now on to Trilogy. Did you attend either of the first two?
No, not been at either, unfortunately. The second one, we actually had a show on the same night. While some of the office were in Vegas for Wilder Fury 2, I was at London's iconic York Hall for another big rematch that night, which was Brad Foster against Lucian Reed. So yeah, I haven't been to the first two. I don't know if I'll be going to the third one just again, because we're going to have a show in the UK that will lead into it. So there's going to be stuff. So yeah, but we'll see.
I think, like, casting back to the first one, how did you foresee that first fight going?
How did I see the first fight going? Do you know what I mean? The closer and closer we got to it, there was a real optimism about. Do you know what? He can do this. He really can do it. So yeah. Do you know what? I actually thought he was going to win. That was the thing. I thought Fury was going to do it. I thought Wilder. His best win was Luis Ortiz, and he looked very good in that. But Fury just had all this momentum, all this coming back, the whole story. Look, and these aren't boxing reasons as to why he would win the fight. It was just a feeling, and the rounds that he did with Francesco Pianetta. A lot of people are saying, "Oh God, he only fought Pianetta," kind of thing. He couldn't even knock him out. But they were valuable for Tyson to get in, considering Sefer Sefri just 4 rounds, and really that was about. He was looking out at the crowd at some point. Pianetta rounds were very valuable to him, and I think he gained a lot of confidence from that, and we gained a lot of confidence from that. So the fight was made.
Before that first one, were you at Windsor Park when they did the face-off?
Yeah, that was a fun week. That was very cool.
What were they both like separately, I guess? Were you around either of them?
Yeah, so Fury's just great, but what Wilder is after that Windsor Park on the Monday did something at BT Sports Studio. So they did like a sit down with John Rawling, like a gloves are off type thing. So we were around Wilder all day there, and they did the press conference. He's just a nice bloke, just a nice guy. I think the Bronze Bomber is obviously a character. Tyson Fury's obviously got his larger than life character, but no one can be like that 24/7. It's just not real life. And Deontay Wilder was just a perfectly nice guy. I remember trying to explain what a dosser was because he was unsure. So he asked because I was around him. I did my best, but I'm sure. Do you know what's your definition of dosser?
A tosser? I just think it was a Tyson Fury spin on the word tosser. I didn't think there was anything deep to it.
Right. So you're going with like tosser as in someone who, yeah. Okay, but I mean the explanation I gave him was more someone who is just a bit kind of lazy and a bit rubbish, just a bit of a dosser.
So you think there was a deeper meaning to it than just right, interesting?
Yeah, I don't think he's calling him a tosser. I'm not sure he is. I'm not sure that's what he means. You big tosser. No, yeah. But I mean, look it up. I want to look.
Urban Dictionary.
A person who sleeps rough. So that's the main thing.
Tyson Fury calls Wilder someone who sleeps rough.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, there's worse insults out there, but
that's true.
We've got to the bottom of it today, Jason.
Then the second fight, what do you think changed from fight 1 to fight 2 that tipped it in Tyson's favour?
I think Tyson Fury saw something at the end of the first fight, and he realised once he got up and actually started backing up Deontay Wilder, he realised he can back up Deontay Wilder, and he realised he'd also got more rounds in the bank ahead of the second fight. So he fought fought Otto Wallin. These are all, he picked up experience, more and more experience. He needed that. He needed that game time heading into the second Wilder fight. And what changed was, so he took that knowledge away of what he could potentially do to Deontay Wilder, added this extra kind of match day experience to it, ring time, put it all together and thought, yeah, let me just see if I can just do this straight away and actually start walking him down. The answer was yes. I think he collected data and he utilised.
How do you foresee fight 3 going?
I think it's really dangerous. I think that Tyson Fury has surprised Deontay Wilder twice. In the first fight, he surprised him by just being fitter and more durable than he thought he would be. I mean, there's not much to suggest. If you're Deontay Wilder and you've got this guy in front of you whose last good win was 3 years ago, you're probably thinking, right, I've got all the momentum. I'll just knock him out like I knock everyone else out. So he was surprised. Second fight, he surprised Deontay Wilder by him down. Who on earth walks down the biggest puncher in boxing? Tyson Fury does. Surprise, surprise. Third fight, can he surprise him again? It's going to be very difficult because Deontay Wilder now knows Tyson Fury can walk him down. He knows he can take a punch. So the onus is really going to be on Wilder. What can he do differently? And he has made changes. He is trying to do stuff differently. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. And
how do you think, or what do you think is Deontay's path to victory?
I think that's a no-brainer that he's going to just try and land and knock him out. And if anyone in the world can do that, it's Deontay Wilder. So he will just be looking to land that shot, and he'll be looking to probably trust himself more and actually walk forward. So fire is going to meet fire. If Tyson Fury tries to do the same thing again, and walk down Deontay Wilder, he might find more in form of resistance, might find a jab in his face, might find a right hand in his face, just trying to knock out Tyson Fury and not allowing himself to be walked down.
And being familiar with Tyson, do you think he is capable of having another trick up his sleeve?
Yeah, look, Tyson Fury will absolutely believe he could just do the same thing again. And there's nothing to suggest he can't do the same thing again. Deontay Wilder has shown he can be walked down. If you're aggressive against him, you can do a number on him. And there's probably very, very few people, maybe even in the whole world, Tyson Fury is the only man, the only freak that can do that. This 6'8" guy who can withstand punches from Deontay Wilder, bully Deontay Wilder on the inside and on the outside. He will trust himself to do exactly the same as what he did last time, and he will think he is, he's cracked the Deontay Wilder code, and that he lives in his head, and that Wilder will be taking on Fury and demons and all sorts on that night, and that he's a broken.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's poised nicely. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, it's a very, very intriguing fight. I've heard, obviously this fallout of Fury Joshua. That was the fight we wanted. However, we have ended up with Fury Wilder 3 and Joshua Usyk. That's pretty good.
Anyway, so Fury Wilder, I'd imagine the MC will be Jimmy Lennon Jr., Matchroom have Michael Buffer, and now BT have Dev Sahni.
BT have Thomas Schreiber.
Thomas Schreiber.
Thomas Schreiber's the man. I was asked on Friday, basically. I think Thomas Schreiber, I don't know why, but he had to go home or something. And they would usually ask Craig Stephen to step in if Thomas Schreiber's unavailable. Craig Stephen was up doing a Fight Zone show. So, yeah, they just asked me. I had a license from like 5 years ago.
Well, do you need a license to be an MC?
Yeah,
right,
you
okay.
do. To do it in a British Boxing Border Control ring, you need to have British Boxing Control Border Control license, which I got 5 years ago. I didn't do an awful lot with it. They just told me to get it because they wanted to, just in case, I guess, things like what happened last week. So it was good fun. But I don't see myself as an MC. It's not something I'm really particularly to pursue. I look at the likes of Thomas Schreiber, Diamante, Buffer, and all of those guys. They're just different level, and they do it properly. They're actually, properly MCing. I've got a sore throat at the end of the night because I'm doing it wrong. So,
how did Frank approach that conversation with you?
It wasn't Frank that asked me. It was Andy Ailing, who deals with a lot of the sort of event stuff. He just said, "Do you want to do it? We've had Thomas Schreiber fall out. We can't get Craig Stephen in. Do you want to give it a go?" Yeah, why not? And that was 2 hours before the weigh-in. So yeah, I had to get all my stuff together, go and buy a suit as well for the next day. It was quite a mad 24 hours.
Did you get your pat on the back from Frank after?
Yeah, I got to get my pats on the back. So I got a few pats on the back on the night. I had some good comments. I had some good feedback. But yeah, it was good for sort of building profile and getting my face out there and my name out there, but not really the avenue I'm looking to pursue. So Thomas Schreiber's job is safe.
No, you did well. I turned on the TV and I thought, wait, what's he doing here? It was the bit where I think the TV camera was panned to a ringside interview, and then I heard your voice in the background and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, what's this? That's
just popping up everywhere, just getting where water can't. That's what you got to do. But yeah, no, it was good fun. It was good fun. I had good feedback, but not something I'm really looking to pursue.
So without including Thomas Schreiber, because I know he works for your company, who is your favourite MC out of, we'll say, Jimmy Lennon Jr., David Diamante and Michael Buffer?
Probably Buffer. Probably Buffer. I mean, he's just the GOAT, really, isn't he? He's probably not as good now as what he was, but he's still. I mean, Jimmy Lennon's great as well. He's classy, but he doesn't get me like going as much as Buffer does. With Jimmy Lennon, you're watching him, you're just thinking, yeah, great, it's showtime, and he just does a brilliant job every time. Buffer is the one who just sort of he could possibly give you butterflies before a big fight and get you thinking, yes, this is happening. Yeah, Buffer's the man. The other guys are good as well. There's this young, like, kind of Latino MC I've heard coming through as well. I think he's just doing Michael Buffer's voice, but he's doing it very, very well. He's been on a couple of Golden Boy shows, possibly on Luke Campbell against Ryan Garcia. I remember hearing him and thinking, well done. You sound like Michael Buffer.
I support Celtic, Dev, and it was a couple of years ago they got, for some whatever reason, I think it was through William Hill, because they used to sponsor the Scottish Cup. Michael Buffer did the Let's Get Ready to Rumble before the Scottish Cup final. And it was the most surreal thing ever. You're used to you see him associated with a boxing ring, obviously, and then people packed all close together in an indoor arena, and yet here he was at Hampden Park on a sunny afternoon in May. Interesting though, it was interesting.
Yeah, look, he gets about.
He gets around.
The first time I'd ever seen or heard of Michael Buffer, because I used to be a big wrestling.
Yes.
So he used to introduce like Hollywood Hogan and Sting and all of these guys on WCW. It was great. First time I saw it.
So tell me then, we did touch on it there, we've got the sort of Fury Wilder and the Joshua Usyk, we'll say, like, call it a heavyweight series almost. Assuming, it's a big assumption, but let's say Fury and Joshua come through, how do you think a Fury and Joshua fight plays out?
I mean, you are asking someone who works for Fury's promotion, but the answer, the answer wouldn't change otherwise. I would back Tyson Fury to win, not necessarily by knockout, but I would back to win that fight. I just think he's just too good. Just knows too much. He's too tricky. He'll be feinting. There'll be all sorts of stuff going on in there. He'll be winding Joshua up, and I just think Joshua's big chance is landing something big, and I think Tyson Fury's overcome. So that kind of takes it off Josh.
Probably agree. I think Fury's got more in his arsenal than Joshua does.
Just do a bit of everything. He's a freak, is what he is. I mean, Joshua's athletically a freak as well, and he's tremendous. And this is no slight on Joshua. I mean, some of his wins are very good. The Povetkin win in particular, and the fashion in which he knocked out Povetkin. Considering Povetkin then later went on to knock out Dillian Whyte, that victory stands up very, very well. But I just think Tyson, bank of experience he's got, some of his wins get overlooked. People say, oh, he's only beaten, Wilder and Klitschko. Yeah, he has, away from home, by the way, against reigning champions. But also, that Chisora win. Two Chisora wins.
The second one where he totally, like, not double-crossed him, but he muffed him by the coming out southpaw, and you seen Chisora's face was, like, his eye was busted.
That win looks better and better as the months go on, and the more fights Chisora has. Chisora is actually, with each fight, he's making Joshua's resume look worse and Fury's look better. And I'll tell you why, because Chisora he's knocking out Takam, who Joshua, it was a bit of a weird stoppage. He's knocking down Joseph Parker and giving Parker a hard fight. Joshua against Joseph Parker, Joshua didn't knock him down, and it was a bit of a rubbish fight to watch. But then at the same time, you see what he's doing against these guys, and you see how Fury played with him. You see how Chisora gave Usyk some trouble. Fury's win looks better and better.
What I would give Joshua credit for was, I think he dealt really well with the Ruiz rematch. I think a lot of people would call him boring in that, but I think he managed it really well, just to not take the risk and get the win, get out there, get your career back on track after 100%. Everything.
He did exactly what he needed to do in that fight, and that was a performance for Anthony. Yeah, he deserved it. He needed to do that. What's the point in going in there and just trading up with Andy Ruiz again and getting knocked out again? You don't gain anything. So go and get your crown back. Get those belts back and do it by any means necessary, because that's now opened up all these fights for him, and it makes Fury and Joshua, a huge fight when it does.
I can't wait for when it does. Anyway, moving on to just some more sort of state of the game questions about boxing. What is your opinion on Matchroom leaving Sky?
I know they're saying it's not a gamble.
It's a massive gamble. It's a massive gamble.
Yeah. Look, it feels like a gamble. Obviously, Sky Sports have been around for years. They've got this infrastructure. Pay-per-view in particular, the machine that they have in place, the surround sound that they can make is extraordinary. I can see why Matchroom have done it, though, in terms of they will be getting good budget, probably more budget for the TV shows. I mean, it is more budget for just the general Saturday night boxing. You see right now, their last show is going to be Lewis Ritson against Ponce, who's fighting on Saturday. That's it doesn't feel like a massive Saturday night fight night. But on DAZN, it feels like they're probably going to have better Saturday night fight nights. However, in terms of the pay-per-view level events, I'm not sure if they can quite hit the heights, if they can quite make the surround sound that they were able to before. And that's why you're going to see probably Anthony Joshua will end up staying with Sky beyond this because of the infrastructure. And stars like that won't cap their earning potential either. So I think it will be good up to a certain level, but what you can't really beat is the uncapped earning potential of fighting on pay-per-view. And any box office platform can do that. Sky Sports box office, BT Sport box office can do that as well. In America, Showtime pay-per-view, obviously, when DAZN first went into that market, they were talking about how pay-per-view is dead. View, as we're seeing, is very much alive in America, and I think even DAZN have now conceded that pay-per-view will always have a place in boxing. Look, it is a bit of a gamble for them, but I think they'll do okay. They will make noise. I'm sure they'll set up some good strategic partnerships, and it's all good for boxing. And let's see what Sky Sports do now, and who else comes to the fore as a promoter. And I think it's all going to be a very, very good time for boxing.
I think Eddie Hearn is an excellent promoter as well, but I think it's funny how it's hard to be both. Pay-per-view, come and join an app where there's no sort of, you pay your money for your boxing, and then having the shoe on the other foot, Sky's where pay-per-view is. It's, like juggling both. He's putting on both shoes.
I think he said as much himself that certainly when DAZN joined the UK market and started, putting on shows there and putting on like Canelo versus Saunders, for example, at £2, and then maybe a week earlier or a week later you've got Derek Chisora against Joseph Parker for £17. It must have been a very difficult spot to be in, but yeah, and having to go over to America and say, pay-per-view's finished, forget about pay-per-view, and then coming home and saying, oh, by the way, Derek Chisora's on pay-per-view. That's all right, isn't it, guys? It was a tough spot to be in, but look, they've got their place now. They've got their one broadcaster which they'll use across the world, and I'm sure it's a much simpler message for them. If you're an A-star fighter, you aren't really going to want to cap your earning potential.
What do you make of the recent sort of exhibition fights and the celebrity fights?
I think it's fine. I don't really treat it as boxing. I mean, there's a couple of things. The Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather. just an event, and it wasn't a proper boxing match exhibition, so it's treated as such. That almost kind of sits apart. The Jake Paul stuff, I think it's fun. I'm I'm a fan, and they are doing it properly, and um, he is training. He's training hard every day, and he's wearing the small gloves, and he's doing it properly. He's getting licensed, and yeah, he might just be fighting MMA guys for now, but he's bringing a lot of noise to the sport, and a lot of eyes that may not have been looking at the sport before, and even this whole link to Tommy Fury. It's just stories, isn't it? It's just constantly, and you're seeing what's his name, Bradis, Bradis of all people, getting on top of cars, calling out Jake Paul. It's just fun. You just gotta go with it. I mean, for as long as it lasts, I enjoy it. And there's going to be some boxers perhaps further down cards, or world champions, maybe not making world champion money, who would be looking at it and thinking, hey, what about me? What about me? But really, these guys, they can learn a lot from Jake Paul. There's a lot of boxers out there who don't even use social media. I mean, have a look at Jake Paul and learn from him. Look at some of the stuff that he's doing. He's just a guy, just like you are. Why can't you do that? Just make some crazy videos. I think boxing can learn from what guys like that are doing, to enhance their profile and make parts of the sport more fun.
Yeah, so the Paul brothers are the complete package, but boxing's just one sort of facet of their empire, whereas I think, yeah, you have boxers who boxing is, it's just boxing to them and that's all, whereas these guys have got all the different things going on and they're out there for that reason.
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. But what boxing can learn from it is, you certainly, as a boxer, you need to be on social media. You certainly need to do that. You need to be doing interviews and stuff, and trying your best to enhance your profile. It's all well and good signing with a promoter, and your promoter will help you. Certainly when it comes to you're scheduled to fight and it's around an event, but you're not fighting every day. You've got a chance to be on social media every day and talk to an audience and create content. And I just think that should be something boxers should consider. That if you're going to spend Tuesday working on your footwork and your cardio, your fitness kind of thing, spend an hour just like doing a bit of something. Just consider it part of your training. If you're going to reach the highest highs of boxing and make the most money that you can, it's just part of your training. Is how I see it.
Then what do you think as well about the sort of interviews that you've done? Who would you say are some of the more colourful characters that you've come across?
Well, I mean, Tyson Fury's he's great. He's great. You don't even really need to ask him that much. You just lead him a couple of places and he'll just give you gold. I did an interview with him probably about a year ago where it was probably like half hour just over Zoom. And the amount of stories that we got out of that, like we gave the interview to like newspapers as well to have a look at and see how much they could run with. It was like 5 or 6 different stories all to come out of that. And he's great to talk to. Sonny Edwards is another one where you could ask one question and you might not talk again for another 15 minutes because he's just cracked on. He's answered your question. He's created his own question. He's answered that, and he's gone off onto a whole different track. But his mind goes at 100 miles an hour, but it always makes for a very interesting interview. He's one of the smartest guys in boxing.
Have you ever spoken to John Fury?
Yes, yeah, that might be my favourite interview that I've ever done. Actually, that was in person. That was when Tommy Fury came back, his first fight after Love Island. It was on the same show as Daniel Dubois, and only a couple people got John Fury that day. In one video, he did myself and he did IFL TV. I think with IFL TV, he ended up calling out Dana White for some sort of scrap. But in mine, I had a good chat with him about how far Tommy can go and how he became a fan of Love Island and how he'll continue to watch it even when Tommy Fury's not in it, which was quite the quote, actually, and something I will bring up when the next series of Love Island does start, hopefully very soon. And yeah, just get that out there. But yeah, he's great to talk.
Moving on then, just to round us off, a bit of sort of fun questions to see us out. Obviously, I've just been through the worst of the lockdowns, hoping that it's the worst and that there's not going to be another wave and another set of restrictions. What got you through the 2 lockdowns?
Just the interviews, to be quite honest, because we weren't doing like Zoom interviews before. Every now and again, I'd do an interview at a press conference or something like that. But like creating my own little show, it was Lockdown Lowdown, and that's just called The Lowdown, where I'm just interviewing boxers. That really got me through it, and that's where I got to speak to Tyson Fury, and that was great for my profile, great for Queensberry to have this constant sort of flow of content. So yeah, I mean, professionally that helped, but to be honest, it helped personally as well. It really kept me busy. It was fun to do, fun content to create, fun stuff to turn around, and yeah, that sort of thing really helped.
Then, as we go back to quote unquote normality, what are you looking forward to the most?
Date night, to be honest, just going out for dinner with my wife. We haven't really been able to do that too much. It's started again now because restaurants are open. It's still a little bit weird though, isn't it? You know, you have to wear your mask down to your table and then wear your mask again when you get up. It's not quite there, but it's approaching. So yeah, I mean, she'll be listening to this. She'll be pleased to hear that.
So if Mrs. Sahni gives you responsibility for where you're going for dinner, what's your choice of cuisine?
Yeah, probably burgers. To be honest, like if it's just like TGI Fridays, we're going to go there. Very big on that. Burgers, any kind of mixed grill. I'm big on my meats, and if it's up to her, we'll go to Pizza Express.
She a pizza person?
Yeah, I'm big on pizza. We probably eat pizza too much. Like it's too much, mate. There's Domino's there, Papa John's is there. These guys, I know it's getting more and more expensive as well, but as it gets more and more expensive, they keep bringing out these offer codes and they reel you. And now it's going to be the Euros. There's going to be special football offers. So yeah, I would imagine I should gain a good couple of stone over the next couple of weeks.
Out of obviously your work in boxing, but what would you say the best fight you've ever witnessed live?
Jamie Conlon against Anthony Nelson. Trying to remember where it was. It might have been the Copper Box, might have been Wembley Arena. It was on Boxnation, 2015, 2016. It was just tremendous, just knockdowns galore. Like if there's ever like a blood and guts warrior, it's Jamie Conlon. Just unbelievable. That wasn't the first. He got knocked down, got back up. The other fella got knocked down, got back up. It was just that constantly over however long it lasted. I can't remember, but it was great, and he's done that in a few fights, Jamie Conlon, and always terrific to watch. So I think that.
Good man. And last one, are you a football fan? Do you support a team?
Yes, I'm from Kent, so I support Man United. Of course, that's how it works. That's how it works. But yeah, I've been an ardent Man United fan for many years. So yeah, it looks like we're going to get Jadon Sancho as well. 11 million apart in the valuation at the moment, so I'm sure we can sort that out.
Yeah, so let's bring him in. If you're, I don't think it's Ed Woodward still for the time being. If you're Ed Woodward, who else is coming in and who else is needing to be sold?
I mean, well, I want everyone. So Sancho, I've wanted, since last year. I would love to get Haaland. Just knock them up together. Oh goodness, them two. If you can't get him, get Kane. But we need something up there. Yeah, Haaland is dreamy. Haaland and Sancho. Who do we need to get rid of? Do you know what? Anthony Martial, when he first joined, there was little glimpses there of like, oh wow, have we got the next Thierry Henry here? But at times he just looks so disinterested, and I think he's fallen a little bit down the pecking order as well. When you've got like Mason Greenwood coming through, and he's a Manchester boy, and he's giving it his all, and he's still so young. So I feel as though if we're going to bring in a marquee striker, we can pop. Daniel James for me doesn't look like a Man United player. But he might be one of those. He's very young as well. He might be one of those where if you sell him or if you load him, he'll go somewhere else and blossom and then make himself, a big star and make himself a more valuable player. You see that happen so many times over the years. Lingard last year went to West Ham and blossomed, and now he's only just missed out on the England squad. And it's a conversation. He's only just missed out, whereas if he'd have just stuck at Man United and been on the bench, no one would notice that he's missed out on the England. But for me, yeah, Martial and James could probably go. And, bring in Sancho. Haaland. You can't get Haaland. Kane. There's that Wolves. Does he still play for Wolves? Who's the big fella up there? Raul Jimenez?
Jimenez, yeah.
He'd be a very good player for us to get hold of as well. Very good. We've got Cavani up there, but I don't know how long that whole thing's going to last. He's been amazing this season, but...
What's your reaction to the Europa League final?
Penalty shootout just went on for ages and ages and ages and ages and ages. Oh, God. I felt as though David De Gea doesn't save penalties and the other fella does. So play. So that's my reaction to that. And then he missed the penalty. So it wasn't ideal. It wasn't ideal at all. And that might end up being his last act as a Man United player, to not save a penalty and then miss one.
No, answers on a postcard, please. OGS.
Yeah, exactly.
That's me though. Thank you so much. Do you want to tell listeners where they can find you?
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at Dev Sahni _, on Instagram, Dev Sahni. Come follow, enjoy the content. All jokes are mainly my own. Come and join the revolution. It's not really a revolution. It's just a bit of Twitter, innit?
That's very true. But no, thank you. This has been fun. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Cheers, Jason. Take care, mate.
So there you have it. Thanks to Dev for his time and going into some interesting detail about his boxing life and the boxing world in general. Lots of interesting little tidbits about some of the famous names and faces that you'll have come across before. As he mentioned, Dev and his fine sense of humour can be found on Twitter at Dev Sahni _ and Instagram at Dev Sahni. Both of these handles are in the show notes. The usual bits and bobs to finish off. Please follow at Lost for Words Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. You can support Lost for Words by hitting the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and if you are an Apple Podcasts user, a 5-star review means the world to us, as it helps massively with the show's visibility. Thank you all so much for your continued support and for tuning in. I am your host Jason, and this has been Queensberry Promotions with Dev Sahni. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week for episode 16 of the Lost for Words podcast.